friends, today we are going to be creating a work of abstract artwork using some oil pastel and watercolor resist. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is to choose your color in your oil pastels. You can see I am choosing the color orange. Your oil pastels are going to represent your particles. Now, when we're thinking about what shape to use for our particles, you have a few different options. You could simply just color in a little circle, like a little dot, and that could represent your particles, like I'm doing here. Remember, when you're placing your particles, you want to really pay attention to the distance between them, because that is what's going to tell your viewer which state of matter your particles are in. You might also want to choose maybe some stars. Maybe you chose to create stars as your particle shape. You could choose whatever shape you want to represent your particles. But again, make sure you're paying extra attention to the space between those particles that you're drawing, because that's what's going to give our brains the idea of what state of matter those particles are living in. The last example I give you here is some triangles that you could use as well as your particles, but you could use any shape you could think of. You could use hearts, rectangles, squares, ovals, whatever shape that you want to use to represent your particles, you can choose that. Now that you're finished drawing your particles, we want to choose the complement of the color that you did all of your particle drawings in. So I used orange oil pastel for my particles, so I need to find orange's complementary color out of my watercolor. Oh, and there it is blue. So I'm going to only be using blue watercolor on my paper. So I should only have two colors on my artwork. I have the color I chose for my oil pastel, and I have the oil pastel's complementary color. Let's remember, as we're creating with our watercolor paints, we need a couple more things. We need our bowl of water and our paintbrush. Remember to swim slowly before you go to wake up your color. So once you have some water on your paintbrush, you're going to just wiggle right on top of whatever color you're using. You don't need to dig into that paint palette like that. You don't need to do that. You just wiggle right on top. And if it's not working, you need to add more water. Once your paintbrush is fully loaded and ready to paint, you're just going to go right into your artwork and paint right over the top of those particles that you drew. Because oil and water don't mix, when we're layering these two materials, the oil is going to keep that watercolor paint from absorbing into the paper. So this is actually another really interesting experience with the states of matter, because that oil pastel acts as a solid, blocking the paint from seeping into the paper, and that paint is a liquid. So there's another layer of science happening with our integration project today. You're going to make sure while you're painting to keep all of those brush strokes in the same direction. I started in this diagonal direction, and that's what I'm going to stay in throughout my piece. We want to make sure we're keeping our strokes in the same direction, because if you start going all willy-nilly and just painting any which way, you could see those brush strokes in the background. Now, there may be some times where you like that and you want your viewers, your audience, to see those brush strokes in your artwork, but today we're not going to do that. We don't need that to make our artwork successful. What will make our work successful is choosing the correct complementary colors, placing our particles with the correct distance apart to represent the different states of matter, and using good craftsmanship while we are using our paintbrush. That means all of our brush strokes are going in the same direction. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed creating this with me, and we'll see you next time.